Welcome back to Kleppers Corner. Today in history, the only show where we time travel without a flux capacitor, just caffeine and crippling curiosity. Today's date, October 14th, might sound like any other Tuesday, but it's basically history's greatest hits album. Conquest, Courage, Cold War Panic, Cartoon Bears, and Chuck Yeager breaking both the sound barrier and, I assume, his chiropractor's heart. Buckle up, because this day gave us everything from kings getting clobbered to field marshals forced to swallow poison. And somewhere in there, a stuffed bear learns about friendship. Yeah, we contain multitudes. Segment 1. A Norman invasion walks into a bar. The Battle of Hastings, 1066. October 14th, 1066, the day England got a violent French makeover. The Battle of Hastings wasn't just a brawl between guys with bad dental hygiene. It was history's version of a software update. King Harold Godwinson was defending England's last Anglo-Saxon operating system. But here came William of Normandy like, "Bonjour, peasant, time to install feudalism 2.0. See, poor Harold had just fought the Vikings up north at Stamford Bridge. Basically, sprinted across England, crushed the Norwegians, and then immediately had to run back south to fight the Normans. It's like winning a marathon only to realize the finish line was actually a treadmill. His soldiers were exhausted. His armor smelled like despair. And then William shows up with knights on horses, archers, and the medieval equivalent of PowerPoint, actual planning. Harold's men held the high ground behind their famous shield wall. It was basically a medieval TSA line, slow, impenetrable, and full of angry dudes holding axes. But then William's cavalry pretended to retreat. The English chased them, and boom, trap sprung. It's the oldest play in the book. Make your opponent think you've rage quit, then respawn behind them. And Harold, legend says he got an arrow in the eye, which, let's be honest, is either the world's worst luck or the first historical meme. That one shot ended Anglo-Saxon England. The French moved in, built castles everywhere, introduced fancy words like beef and pork, and basically made England the Europe DLC it still runs on today. Moral of the story? Never underestimate a French guy with a grudge and a horse. Segment 2. It takes more than a bullet to kill a bull moose. The shooting of Teddy Roosevelt, 1912. Jumping ahead to 1912, Theodore Roosevelt, America's original adrenaline junkie, gets shot in the chest and keeps giving his speech. Because when you've wrestled bears, started a third political party, and invented the national park selfie, a bullet's just an inconvenience. Roosevelt's would-be assassin, John Schrank, was convinced that the ghost of President McKinley told him Teddy was the devil. Which raises two questions. Why are all political assassins also amateur ghost hunters? And second, why didn't McKinley's ghost warn Teddy? Anyway, the bullet hit his glasses case and his 50-page speech, which slowed it down. So the speech literally saved his life. Somewhere, a high school English teacher is yelling, "See, words do matter." Teddy coughed into his hand, realized he wasn't coughing up lung, and said, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." Then talked for 90 minutes. 90. While bleeding. That's not a campaign speech. That's a CrossFit workout with applause breaks. The bullet stayed in his chest for the rest of his life, which, for Teddy, was probably just another excuse to flex. Imagine being his doctor. "Sir, you've got a bullet lodged near your ribs." And Teddy's like, "That's fine. I'll use it to open beer bottles." Segment 3. The Desert Fox and the Cyanide Capsule, Rommel's Last Day, 1944. Now to 1944, where Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, Hitler's favorite general, was given the worst ultimatum in history. Take a cyanide pill or get a front row seat to your own show trial. Spoiler, he chose the pill. Rommel, nicknamed the Desert Fox, had actually earned the rare distinction of being admired by both sides. He was basically the Tom Hanks of the Wehrmacht. But when Hitler's bunker gang found out Rommel might have known about the plot to assassinate him, they offered a polite retirement package involving poison. The Nazis didn't want to hang him publicly because it'd be bad PR to execute your most beloved war hero. It's like Marvel killing off Iron Man halfway through a Disney cruise. So on October 14th, Rommel took the capsule and the regime announced he died of war wounds, which, to be fair, is sort of true, just not the kind the press release suggested. Hitler got to preserve the myth of the noble general, and Germany got to keep pretending loyalty meant anything. It's one of those chilling reminders that in fascist regimes, even the fox gets trapped in the snare. Segment 4, the day the world almost ended. The Cuban Missile Crisis begins, 1962. October 14th, 1962, the day a U.S. spy plane took photos of Soviet missiles in Cuba, or as it's known in history books, the moment humanity collectively said, "Wait, are we about to die?" Those U-2 photos landed on President Kennedy's desk, and suddenly the White House became a high-stakes escape room with nukes. Hawks wanted to bomb the missile sites immediately, because apparently World War III sounded like a fun sequel. The Dubs, meanwhile, said, "Maybe we don't vaporize Cuba today?" Kennedy chose a blockade, a quarantine, because apparently international law is just a matter of phrasing. That's right, global survival came down to semantics. For 13 days, the world teetered on the edge of annihilation, while the USSR, the US, and a very nervous Fidel Castro played nuclear chicken. Eventually, Khrushchev blinked, missiles left Cuba, and humanity lived to see another round of duck and cover drills. The Cuban Missile Crisis remains the ultimate example of what happens when two dudes with daddy issues and too many warheads try to outflex each other. Segment 5, from Birmingham to Oslo. Martin Luther King Jr. wins the Nobel Peace Prize, 1964. 2 years later, same date, way better vibe. On October 14th, 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his leadership in the civil rights movement. He was 35, youngest recipient ever. And the committee basically said, "Hey, America, try being as good as this guy." King donated the entire $54,000 prize to civil rights organizations. Meanwhile, segregationists in the South lost their collective minds. Bull Connor probably threw his TV out the window that day. But King saw it as more than an award. It was a mandate, a global recognition that his fight for justice wasn't just about the South. It was about humanity. And that global credibility gave him the moral weight to later speak out against the Vietnam War, calling out the triple evils of racism, materialism, and militarism. Basically, he saw the same hypocrisy then that we're still arguing about today, but with better suits and worse Wi-Fi. Segment 6, breaking the sound barrier and every pilot's spine, 1947. October 14th, 1947. Captain Chuck Yeager does what every test pilot dreamed of and every scientist feared. He breaks the sound barrier in a rocket plane. Keep in mind, this was before computers, GPS, or seatbelts that worked. The man was flying a glorified bullet nicknamed Glamorous Glennis at 700 miles per hour, because nothing says romance like naming your supersonic death tube after your wife. The plane looked like a bullet, flew like a miracle, and could have exploded like a Michael Bay movie. At Mach 1, physics basically says nope, and control surfaces stop working. But Yeager's all-moving tailplane design, thanks to engineer Jack Ridley, let him ride the turbulence like a mechanical cowboy. When he landed, calm as ever, he said something understated like, "Well, we broke the sound barrier." I imagine NASA scientists crying tears of joy while Yeager's like, "Cool, now where's the bar?" His flight marked the birth of the supersonic age and made him the unofficial patron saint of swagger. Segment 7, from Piglet to pop culture. Winnie the Pooh is born, 1926. Finally, something soft. On October 14th, 1926, A.A. Milne published Winnie the Pooh, giving the world its most beloved, honey-addicted philosopher. The stories were based on his son Christopher Robin's real toys. So, essentially, he monetized his kids' playtime before YouTube families made it weird. With E.H. Shepard's illustrations, Pooh became an instant sensation. Over time, it morphed from bedtime reading to global empire, translated into 50 languages, including Latin, because even ancient Romans deserved comfort bears. Winnie the Pooh became the billion-dollar honeypot for Disney. What's wild is how Pooh and Yeager happened on the same date, decades apart, two opposite takes on human ambition. One breaks the laws of physics, the other breaks your emotional defenses. Both remind us that imagination, whether mechanical or magical, propels humanity forward. Segment 8. October 14th, the Everything Everywhere All at Once Day, a rapid-fire round. 1806. Napoleon crushes Prussia at Jena and Auerstedt, proving that being 5 feet 6 inches and furious can conquer Europe. 1933. Hitler pulls Germany out of the League of Nations because nothing says we're totally peaceful like quitting the organization literally made for peace. 1934. Mao Zedong starts the Long March, 6,000 miles, 370 days, one very long Yelp review. 1966. Huey Newton and Bobby Seale found the Black Panther Party. Their original mission? Protecting black neighborhoods from police brutality. Their uniforms? Way cooler than the FBI's. 2012. Felix Baumgartner jumps from 24 miles up, free-falling at Mach 1. Basically, Chuck Yeager without the cockpit, or the common sense. In conclusion, the crucible of change. So what's the lesson from October 14th? Maybe that history is just one long tug of war between courage, stupidity, and curiosity. One day, a king loses an eye and a kingdom. Another day, a pilot breaks physics. Somewhere in between, a bear gets stuck in a honey jar and teaches us all about friendship. Every October 14th, humanity seems to test itself. Sometimes by force, sometimes by flight, sometimes by sheer imagination. From Hastings to Havana to 100-Acre Wood, it's the same story. We stumble, we risk, we create, and somehow we endure. And that, my friends, is the weirdly poetic magic of today in history. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to reread Winnie the Pooh while wearing aviator goggles and whispering, Teddy Roosevelt would have loved this.